You and you smacked me.
Bro, nobody smacked you, bro. Why I smack you?
You didn't?
Why I smack you?
You didn't?
Why
You didn't? You didn't hit my
Why I
arm?
smack you? But why are you grabbing me, though?
What is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You're gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay?
Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything, what you want me to do, man?
I had no way of controlling the events that occurred on April 27th. I had not been drinking at all that day.
This is Amber Geiger, a former Dallas police officer. She was anticipating the verdict with a sense of readiness, but when it was delivered, it turned out to be the worst possible outcome for her.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Geiger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. No outbursts.
You could hear the gaps there inside the...
Geiger took a big breath and wiped a tear from her eye. A court officer tried to console her and gently ran her hand through her hair. Botham Jean's family felt relieved after hearing the verdict. Throughout the trial, many of them showed up wearing red, which happened to be Botham's favorite color. When the guilty verdict was announced, Jean's mother lifted her arms in gratitude for the victory. The cheers of supporters celebrating the verdict could be heard from outside the courtroom. After the verdict was announced, Amber Geiger appeared composed as she walked out, but she couldn't hold back her emotions and broke down just out of the sight of the cameras. Meanwhile, her family remained in their seats, looking stunned by the outcome. In the upcoming sentencing phase of the trial, Geiger might be facing life imprisonment. She was found guilty of the fatal shooting of a 26-year-old church-going accountant in his own apartment. The incident occurred when she mistakenly entered his apartment, believing it was her own. Body cam footage captured the moments after the shooting, with Geiger leading the police to the apartment. Throughout the recording, she repeatedly stated that she thought she had entered her own apartment. During the trial, her testimony captured the full attention of the American public.
No police officer ever would want to hurt an innocent person.
The lawyers representing her argued that it was a tragic mistake. However, not everyone believes that the verdict will be upheld.
It's probably a defective verdict, meaning defense counsel will ask the court to reduce the verdict from murder to aggravated manslaughter.
According to a lawyer representing the Jean family, the verdict carries significant implications, as it stands as a rare instance of a police officer being convicted in a racially charged case.
This is a huge victory, not only for the family of Botham Jean, but as his mother Allison told me a moment ago, this is a victory for black people in America.
In September 2019, Geiger received a 10-year prison sentence for the fatal shooting of her neighbor. She will be eligible for parole in the year 2024.
The former La Mesa police officer at the center of this controversial arrest video may find out tomorrow if he will stand trial on charges of lying on a police report. Testimony in the preliminary exam of Matthew Dagas just wrapped up. He's charged with filing a false police report in connection with that arrest. It led to days of...
This is Matthew Dagas, a former La Mesa police officer who showed up in court clean-shaven and wearing a suit. He attentively listened as Detective Julie Jensen testified that Dagas informed her about stopping Amari Johnson initially because he suspected Johnson was smoking on the Grossmont trolley platform. According to the testimony, Dagas also stated that Johnson became physical during the encounter.
Mr. Johnson swatted at his hand or pushed his hand.
In May 2020, some of the tense encounter was captured on body cameras and bystander videos. During the incident, Johnson mentioned that he was waiting for a friend who resided in the nearby apartment building.
You and you smacked me.
Bro, nobody smacked you, bro. Why I smack you?
You didn't?
Why I smack you?
You didn't?
Why
You didn't?
smack
You didn't hit my
Why I
arm?
smack you? But why are you grabbing me, though?
Initially, Johnson was approached by the police under the suspicion of smoking in public, but later he was informed that he was being arrested for assaulting an officer. However, all the charges against him were eventually dropped. Instead, the district attorney decided to charge Dagas with a felony count of filing a false police report. Dagas is accused of making untrue statements, including the claim that Johnson was smoking and evading the trolley fare at the stop. During the court proceedings, local activists were present to express their support for Johnson.
Is that he thought he was smoking. He didn't think he was smoking because he had no cigarettes, he had no lighter, he didn't even raise a lit object to his lips.
The incident occurred shortly after the murder of George Floyd, which sparked local protests. Those who support the fired officer argue that the entire case is politically motivated.
Obviously, 2 days after this George Floyd incident, it's very volatile. I mean, our society, they want to demonize police officers. It's time that we stand up and support our police officers.
Matthew Dagus, 31 at the time, was fired in the summer of 2020.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
This is Zachary Wester, attending his trial in Jackson County, Florida. He used to work as a sheriff's deputy, but is now facing a total of 67 charges, including racketeering, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. Wester is being accused of planting drugs in approximately 12 vehicles during random traffic stops.
It appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that? I do.
None of the drivers claimed ownership of the drugs found in their vehicles, but despite that, many of them were arrested. These arrests raised suspicions within the department, leading to Wester's suspension in 2018. After 3 years, the case finally went to trial, and during the proceedings, Wester pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power, about the abuse of the incredible trust that we all put, and we have to put, in law enforcement in a society.
During the trial, the prosecution used the defendant's own body camera footage to support their arguments and present their case. Stephen Van, who had a previous felony conviction, had recently been released from jail when Wester allegedly discovered methamphetamine in his car.
You ever seen this before? No. No, what is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You're gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay?
Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything, what you want me to do, man?
Similar to the other drivers who testified, Van allowed the officer to search his car because he asserted that he had nothing to hide.
I knew my truck was clean. I knew it was.
During the trial, the jury was able to watch footage of most of the traffic stops. However, some recordings were mysteriously missing and not available for review.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
Interestingly, the body camera footage turned out to be the most powerful evidence for the prosecution, particularly in the case involving Teresa Odom.
How are you?
I'm good.
Initially, the officer behaves politely and even playfully.
Officer's polite, even playful.
Anything in the vehicle I need to be concerned about? Bombs, hand grenades, rocket launchers? Okay.
As Odom stands behind the vehicle, Wester starts searching. You can see him getting ready to put on gloves, and at that moment, there's a small item in his left hand. Prosecutors argue that Wester might be concealing a small bag of methamphetamine, which he later claims to have found next to a spoon inside the vehicle.
It's Odom.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Okay.
Now, the white small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video, had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
The prosecution argues that the 28-year-old officer was driven by ambition and wanted to move into narcotics as fast as he could, suggesting it as a possible motive for his actions. On the other hand, Wester testified that he never planted any drugs and denied the allegations against him.
Were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
After 5 days of testimony from various witnesses, the jury was tasked with delivering their verdict. If Wester is found guilty on all charges, he could face a lifetime in prison. Following 7 hours of deliberation, the jury returns with their verdict.
Tyler Wester, we the jury find as follows as to the counts charged in the information. Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged.
The clerk proceeded to announce the verdicts for all 67 charges.
Official misconduct as charged.
Altogether, the corrupt officer was found guilty on 19 charges.
9, guilty of official misconduct as charged. Count 10, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
In addition to other charges, Wester was found guilty of misconduct in the arrests of Van and Teresa Odom. Out of the 12 drivers involved, 11 of them filed civil lawsuits against him. In July 2021, he received a sentence of 12.5 years in a state prison.
My actions cannot go unpunished. As a result of my actions, I caused panic in the community, caused citizens of the African American community to be targeted and inconvenienced.
This is Noah Lennon, who is expressing his apologies in court. He used to work as a Warren police officer and lied about a shooting incident back in January 2020, which led to a frantic search for a suspect. However, it was later revealed that the entire story was untrue. As a result of his actions, Noah Lennon will be serving time in prison for the false report.
I am deeply ashamed of my actions on that day.
Noah Lennon, a former Warren police officer who has now been convicted of a felony, spoke publicly for the first time since his arrest. He addressed the court, sharing his account of what transpired on January 13th of the previous year.
Being a police officer who had sworn to uphold and follow the law, from someone who made police work his life and would never do anything that would jeopardize not only his image, but the image of all officers everywhere, to someone who was so broken that I made a series of bad decisions.
Lennon explains that on that particular day, he experienced a mental breakdown, which led him to make a false claim. According to prosecutors, he used his police-issued radio to report being shot at by a black man driving a dark-colored SUV. This prompted around 60 police officers to rush to his aid and resulted in several traffic stops. Law enforcement even surrounded an apartment building in an effort to apprehend the alleged culprit. However, as a result of the subsequent investigation, it was discovered that Lennon's story was entirely fabricated.
Black man in a hoodie is a very suspect statement made in today's society right now, and the court can't overlook.
Lennon mentioned that he sought professional assistance and has received a diagnosis for a significant disorder, although he didn't specify the exact nature of the condition.
All those affected can forgive me, as I am truly sorry for what I did and what problems it caused.
The damage that Mr. Lennon did to the Warren City Police Department and the African American community in Warren City, there's nothing that he can do to make up for it.
Lennon received a 9-month sentence at the Lorraine Correctional Institution and was also ordered to reimburse over $10,000 in restitution for the police manpower that responded on the night in Warren.
They trusted him. They even thought he was helping out during what were their darkest days. But tonight, a former cop who claimed to help the families of former officers is now accused of taking advantage of them. Not only that, investigators say he exaggerated about his past.
Within police circles, the concept of honor holds significant importance and carries a particular meaning.
No, we don't, especially no Marine.
In police circles, there is very little tolerance for individuals who are suspected of bringing dishonor to their own profession or colleagues.
It angers me that someone would use dead police officers to further their...
Denton County Sheriff Tracy Murphy is discussing Byron Colston.
With Miss Allen since the day of the funeral.
I'm planning on helping him with fundraising.
The 46-year-old Colston initially claimed that he established Cops for Cops with the purpose of aiding the families of deceased officers.
Being a retired lieutenant, I was injured in the line of duty.
Colston's statements regarding his supposed heroic career as a police officer were under investigation for criminal wrongdoing. He is accused of fabricating his history as an officer, which he allegedly used to solicit funds not only for Trooper Allen's family, but also for the families of fallen officers throughout the state.
Trooper who lost his life.
When you interject yourself into something like that, and to bring attention to yourself, I've got no use for it.
Colston's nonprofit organization was established in Denton County. After investigation by Sheriff Murphy's team, it was discovered that out of the total amount of over $61,000 raised, less than $2,000 was actually used to assist the families of fallen officers. Investigators found that certain expenses charged to the organization's bank accounts seemed to be of a personal nature.
It duped a lot of people.
Retired police officer Van Maples assisted Colston in creating Cops for Cops. However, he has now expressed that he feels heartbroken about his former friend's actions.
Hard to believe it because It's shock.
During an interview with Colston, he was seen wearing a badge on his belt. However, it's worth noting that he had not been a police officer for almost 20 years at that time.
Surgery and everything, I passed away 3 times on the
He informed Murphy that he had been shot while performing his duties as a police officer.
He's never been retired, much less honorably. He's never held the rank of lieutenant. And, you know, he's a...
Clip McNear from the Texas Municipal Police Association had also grown suspicious. He decided to record a conversation.
And we're not shot on duty ever, right?
Not to my recollection, no, sir.
Well, you'd remember a bullet going through your skin, wouldn't you?
Well, you would think one would, yes, sir. I apologize. I was trying to be sarcastic.
Him choosing to be comical about it really flies in the face of officers all over the country that have actually been injured and killed in the line of duty.
Colston worked for 3 small police departments north of Dallas, namely Roanoke, Honey Grove, and nearby Ladonia, for approximately 4 years, ending in 2000. According to former Ladonia Police Chief Kevin Mayberry, around 6 years ago, Colston paid him a visit.
He had on a badge. Well, I asked him about the badge, and he said, "Yeah, that's my Ladonia badge." And he said, "But I need a new retirement card and a new update."
Chief Mayberry took possession of Colston's old badge.
Badge and a gun. That was how he wanted his power.
When Mayberry was presented with a Ladonia police ID that supposedly had been issued to Colston in 2014.
That's when he came in to talk to us, and we didn't give him that.
In April, Colston was stopped by state troopers on 2 occasions for traffic violations.
Straight up asked if he is a police officer, and he tells him that he is.
2 months later, in June, investigators obtained 2 arrest warrants charging him with falsely claiming to be a police officer.
Absolutely. You got the Dallas police officers who gave their lives to help others. You've got police officers every day who are really shot in the line of duty.
He needs to man up.
It is evident that Colston's transition from being a sworn police officer to an alleged criminal is a story that is still unfolding.
What he's done.
On June 19, 2018, a warrant was issued for his arrest, and he was taken into custody and booked into the Wise County Jail on June 22, 2018.
I haven't been away from my kids for more than a day, and since being incarcerated, I miss Christmas, I miss my little Sabrina's birthday, I miss my Kylie the Rose ride at bicycle, which I was practicing.
This is Sean Corder, a 35-year-old police officer from the Bloomfield Police Department, who is currently facing multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit official misconduct, tampering with public records, falsifying public records, and false swearing. On June 7, 2012, Corder responded to a call at Marcus Jeter's residence after an argument between Jeter and his girlfriend. Jeter chose to leave voluntarily, but Corder pursued him onto the Garden State Parkway and conducted a traffic stop. Despite Corder's attempts to remove Jeter from his vehicle, Jeter refused, expressing concern for his safety. Calling for backup, Officer Corder's colleagues arrived at the scene, but unfortunately, their vehicle collided with the front of Jeter's car. Amidst the situation, Corder broke the window of Jeter's car and, with assistance from his backup, forcibly pulled Jeter out of the vehicle. Following the incident, the officers involved filed police reports claiming that Jeter had attempted to take Corder's firearm and had assaulted one of the backup officers. Based on these reports, Jeter was charged with eluding, resisting arrest, aggravated assault, and attempting to disarm a police officer. However, after uncovering new evidence, the prosecutor decided to drop all charges against Marcus Jeter. Additionally, an investigation was launched into the actions of the involved officers, which resulted in the grand jury indicting them. Before his sentencing, Officer Corder addressed the judge in front of the entire Essex County Courthouse, expressing his thoughts or statements.
I love my children more than anything in the world, and I know they need me. I don't want them to have to suffer, switch schools, lose friends, lose the house that they're raised in.
Marcus Jeter, the victim in this case, was in the courthouse and had the opportunity to share his thoughts and perspective on Sean Corder and the entire incident.
To say that I resisted. He had a choice. I'm not saying that that messes his character up. I'm not saying that he's not a good guy. I'm just saying that in a situation like this where he has an obligation, a moral obligation to tell the truth, he chose not to.
Sean Corder, the former Bloomfield police officer, was found guilty of official misconduct and tampering with records. As a result, he was sentenced to 5 years in state prison by Essex County Superior Court Judge Michael Raven.
County teenager killed getting off of his school bus. She's now demanding justice for the ex-cop who hit her son, and today a judge sentenced John Canfield to 35 years in prison.
You don't know the pain that you have caused.
This is John Campfill. The parents of 13-year-old Jaheim Robertson are in tears, breaking their silence in court.
My son was mowed down and killed by John Campfield, an ex-cop who chose to drink your sorrows away and then get behind.
According to investigators, John Cam Fields had a blood alcohol level that was twice the legal limit when he hit 5 students from Dundee Ridge Middle Academy who were walking near their bus stop.
Screaming, saying, "Daddy, help me, Dad."
An off-duty Polk County deputy, who was also a father, chased after the suspect. Jonathan Quintana recalled seeing Campfield stumbling and had this to say about the incident involving the group of school children being hit.
Guys, your daughter.
Campfield asserts that he experienced a medical episode, stating that a liver issue caused him to black out.
Of controlling the events that occurred on April 27th. I had not been drinking at all that day.
The judge permanently revoked Campfield's license and sentenced him to jail, possibly for the remainder of his life.
Bring him back. What all I'm asking is for justice for him.
Former Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw reacting to his conviction. This is back in 2015, ultimately sentenced to more than 200 years.
This is Daniel Holtzclaw, a former police officer who worked for the Oklahoma City Police Department. He is facing a range of charges, including rape, sexual battery, forcible oral sodomy, and other sexual offenses. Holtzclaw has been accused of sexually assaulting multiple African American women between December 2013 and June 2014. His victims were specifically targeted from a poorer area of the city, which had a predominantly black population. According to investigators, Holtzclaw selected his victims by running background checks on women with outstanding warrants, pending parking tickets, or previous criminal records. He used this information to target them for his sexual assaults. Despite the accusations, Holtzclaw remained on paid leave until he was formally charged in August 2014. However, he was later terminated from the Oklahoma City Police Department in January 2015. His trial began on November 2nd, 2015.
Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various counts. You will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Holtzclaw consistently proclaimed his innocence and pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. Nevertheless, on December 10th, 2015, he was ultimately found guilty of 18 of the charges. The jury recommended an extraordinary prison sentence of 263 years for him. In response, Holtzclaw's defense attorney requested a new trial, alleging that crucial evidence had been withheld. However, the judge swiftly denied the request. This is Charlie Reeder, the former sheriff of Pike County. He is currently facing several serious charges, including 2 counts of theft in office and tampering with evidence. In 2019, he was accused of diverting money acquired from drug seizures to fuel his gambling addiction, which he had been struggling with for quite some time. It is alleged that he misused around $5,000 from these funds. In an attempt to salvage his reputation, Reeder claimed in court that he had taken the money from drug investigations and used it for the benefit of the community. However, this explanation was highly doubtful and hard to believe. Shortly before his sentencing, Reeder gave an emotional speech, tears streaming down his face, pleading with the judge to spare him from a prison sentence.
I stand here before you today to take accountability for my actions. As a sheriff of Ohio, I shed, I shed bad light on the office of sheriff.
After listening to the lengthy and emotionally charged speech, which included tears, a quivering voice, and various tactics to sway the judge's decision, the judge had just one question to ask.
The denominations did not match what was taken at the crime scene or from those individuals. I guess, why did you take the money?
As part of the plea agreement, Reeder is prohibited from holding any public office in Ohio. Following this, the judge sentenced him to 6.5 years. However, since the charges will run concurrently, Reeder is expected to serve 3 years in prison.